Welcome to our Pepperl+Fuchs quick training session, MODBUS RTU serial devices converted to MODBUS TCP. Basically, IoT enabling a MODBUS RTU device. In this case, it's going to be an inclination sensor. So let's get started. So these are kind of the steps I'm going to go through. I'm going to talk about the components, how it works, any limitations, if any, and then go through the serial setup. You can see these four pictures. We have lots of different form factors for our device masters, and just pick the one that best suits you. So there's three components in this demonstration. One is, of course, the PLC. That's going to be communicating MODBUS TCP. Our device master, which is going to perform the conversion function, and then any of our MODBUS RTU devices. Okay, so let's get this thing wired up. So the MODBUS TCP is relatively simple. You just plug the Ethernet cable from the PLC to your device master. In this case, because of our design, I'm going to use a device master with terminal points on it, just to make it a little easier to wire. And then let's take a look at the MODBUS RTU devices. Number one is I'm using RS-485 from our serial RTU connection, so I need termination on both ends. So I'm going to put termination on the first MODBUS RTU device via termination plug, as you can see here. And then I'm going to wire up the MODBUS back to the MODBUS gateway. You can see here it's going to be 24 volts DC on the plus and minus. This is specific to this type of cable. I'm actually using a CAN cable because this device is wired that way. But make sure that you use the wiring that's appropriate for your device. And in this case, the RS-485 plus and minus is going to be going to my A and B, which is the white and blue wires. Really pretty simple. This is basically how it works. I'm going to send a command via device ID 127. It's going to convert it to address 127 on the MODBUS RTU device. This is going to be happening behind the scenes automatically for you. What are the limitations? Well, we have an RS-485 devices, so we're of course limited by RS-485 limits. And in this case, you can have up to 32 devices on RS-485. One is the device master, and the other 31 devices could be the MODBUS RTU modules. In this case, in my example, I'm only using one, but you can see quite easily how it's going to be simple to have many inclination sensors or many MODBUS devices on one serial line. It can mix and match. You can have an inclination, you can have an RFID that's MODBUS, many MODBUS devices from different manufacturers, different addresses are all going to be on the same line. It's important that all devices have the same serial settings. So in this case, I'm using 19.2, 8 data bits, even parity, 1 stop bit, and of course termination on both ends. One plug on one end, and then I'm going to show you how to terminate basically on the other end in the device master itself. Otherwise, it's pretty simple. In order to configure and set up our device master, we need to set the IP address. This is going to be done using our Port Vision software. Super simple. What's nice about it is when you run Port Vision, you don't have to worry that you won't be able to find it because it's going to automatically discover the device master and allow you to program the IP address. Make sure that the firmware is a MODBUS router. Okay, that's what's going to convert the MODBUS serial to MODBUS TCP. Update the firmware if necessary. And then we got to configure the serial settings. So on the specific serial port that you've got configured or connected to the MODBUS RTU devices, you're going to kind of key in all those serial settings that we looked at before. So we have RS-45 2-wire, 19.2 even 8.1, and we talked about termination on both ends. So I'm enabling RS-45 termination here as well. And then we're going to go ahead and talk to the device. Okay, so I'm using my MODBUS RTU device at 127, and I'm going to key in my address, my unit ID, and the number of registers I need, and run it. In this case, I'm using a simulator, but maybe in your case, of course, you're using a Modbus or Modicon PLC. Okay, so let me a little video here, show you how it's done. So I'm using Device Master to click. I'm going to change the IP address and apply the changes. Once that is done, you can see the IP address is correct and it's Modbus router. Going into my serial port settings, right, just like we saw in the one slide, hit save. That's all the device master settings you need to do. Now I'm using my client simulator to simulate the PLC. I'm going to type in the IP address of the device master. I'm putting the unit ID, which is the Modbus RTU address, the number of registers I need. You say, well, what registers? Well, if I look in the manual, you'll see that I really need 4 registers, 40,000, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I put a little space of 500 milliseconds, but you can make this as fast as you want. You can see it's very simple. I'm moving the inclination sensor around, getting different angles, and then I'm done. See how simple that was? Thanks for watching, and watch out for more videos from Pepperl+Fuchs. Have a great day.